Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Frenzy Extra. Andy Lacombe, Jim Wilson, Kevin Shea. We all know each other's titles, I think, at this point.
We do.
All right, appreciate it.
We're versed.
This is the final Frenzy Extra of the 2018 season, although we'll revisit with Jim before the
Can't get
around the state finals anyway.
Wandering around.
Just a guy wandering in.
Where's Willie? He's in the hallway. He wants to be on TV again.
You know,
You guys want to talk about Wacona?
fire the cameras up. Willie's here. All right, well, let's talk state semifinals. We had championship weekend that just passed, and a great, cold, blustery weekend it was. And we took a vote, and Kevin won. We're going to talk about St. John's first.
He's walking.
Ron DeMasian is happy about that.
We don't talk about
Big
St. John's
weekend for
first.
the
I'm
big
out of
guy.
here.
Yeah, no. So it is St. John's in Division III with a win this past weekend over Shrewsbury, and they go on and they get Springfield Central. Shrewsbury St. John's, huge game, a lot on the line. Jim, St. John's that much better than they were a couple of weeks ago against Marlborough, but that much better than they were first
Right.
couple
I think
weeks
that's
of the year.
what I think they're just they're clicking right now. I think they're playing really well. And just after that Marlborough loss a couple weeks ago, they get a little wake up call. When they play against Shrewsbury, a crosstown rival, they're not going to fall asleep in that game. So I think that was a big thing, especially going into the rematch. They see what happens. A lot of you look at the Northbridge Nipmunk game. A lot of the rematches don't go the way the first game did. So I think they look at that and say, not going to happen. We're just going to go out and just do what we did against Wachusett and just sort of assert ourselves early, and that's what happened.
How much different is St. John's, Kev, right now?
I think a lot different on the line. I think their biggest difference right now is on the line, both offensive and defensive lines. Remember, it's an entirely new line from last year. So these guys got better and better and got more confidence as the year went on, but also just seeing what defenses do. I mean, when you're in practice and you're facing a blitz or a stunt, it's a lot easier to make adjustments there than it is in the actual game when people are yelling and screaming and things are happening at a full speed. I think the offensive line has gotten tremendously better, and I think that defensive line, again, they made some switches, brought two big bodies over there from the offensive line, and that defensive line right now stops the run first and foremost and makes teams one-dimensional, and they had two big picks against Shrewsbury. Luke Faracco, the sophomore, two great picks. That's a big difference. When you're creating turnovers, giving your offense extra possessions, and especially that offense with all the stars at their disposal. And Colin Schofield, watching him play, you can't, at the end of the game, you're like, did he miss on any passes? Did I see any incomplete passes? Because that's how accurate he is and how he makes the right read every time.
It sounds a lot like the quarterback from a year ago.
It does.
Charlie, at the end of the year, he wasn't missing anything. All right. Springfield Central's the opponent. They put up 61 points on St. John's early in the year, and we get made fun of as fancy pundits when you don't know a lot about teams, and you say, this team is athletic. They are athletes. City schools, they get this rap that they're athletes. I saw Central last year in the state semifinal game. They had dudes getting off the bus that looked like they were already in college. They have some athletes on this roster, and they had a quarterback who was a junior, I believe, last year, who threw the ball pretty well. They put up 61 points. Is St. John's good enough now to go back and play for a state championship and beat Central?
Well, that's right. I think last week, we talked about earlier, you brought up the line. They made the changes, both sides of the ball, to make sure they're not going to put 61 up. That was the big knock on St. John's early in the year. They had to win a rock fight because their defense was not there. They were giving up 50 points a game, 60 points a game. Just wasn't happening for them. Their offense found its footing. They're hanging big numbers on teams. Defense is finally starting to catch up. Like you said, the big stops, the interceptions in the Shrewsbury game, that's big. They have a line that can actually stop the run. So, you have the people there. Central's not going to see the same team.
Right.
And I think that was more important. They realized they had to do that because Central's going to, that's their habit. They're just like St. John's and Western Mass. They like to get up early on these teams and really just knock you out of the game the first, second quarter and have you guys chasing points. And they're a tough team to trade points with.
Well, the first couple drives, too, are going to be key. Like with the Shrewsbury game, Shrewsbury drives all the way down the field, 8-minute drive, but they get stopped. They don't get any points. If St. John's is able to hold Central on their first drive, and then St. John's can score subsequently and go up early, everyone will feel on that St. John's sideline, this is a different game, and it's basically like a brand new season, like a completely different season from week 2.
We're going to talk about this with every division, but it's worth bearing out. St. John's enrollment is 960-plus kids, and Central's over 1,000. And they're going to go play a team in Eastern Mass, the winner, Tewksbury or Duxbury, both 500 or 570 kids. So clearly a size matchup. we talk about it we're going to talk about it on the other side later on.
Right.
St. John's playing in Division III. Could they go higher?
Oh, easily. Well, put it this way. Before the realignment and before this whole system took place, 6 years ago, St. John's used to play St. John's Prep every year. They still scrimmage Brockton, and they'd play Xaverian every year in the regular season. And if we still played an 11-game season, St. John's would play those games as their non-league games. Right. It's just, look at they play Central and they played Catholic Memorial this year. So they don't, it's not like they're hiding and saying, well, we're okay with where we are. They want to play top teams. Catholic Memorial is one of the top teams in the state. Central obviously is the best team in Western Mass. They put them on the schedule, just like they used to play the Prep and play Xaverian, and they still scrimmage Brockton.
So St. John's and Wachusett and some of the teams, at least in Division III, could play D2 or D1 schedule. But then what do you do? Because D4 could become D3 with numbers-wise. They would be close. But then 5, 6, and 7 don't really bear out with Eastern Mass.
I've heard there's been something about maybe just getting rid of the regional playoffs, which a lot of ADs don't like because it eliminates a trophy and they can have their own thing. But if they just had play your season and then go to a statewide playoff, put all the teams in the pool, go with alignment, just cut it up, and you have 1,100 boys in school. You're playing Division II, and you have to travel for your first. You'll have a state semifinal game and then a state final. That might be a way to get another one if you play a longer season. Regular season, because you would have less. You wouldn't have to worry about a Central West champion. You just go right into the state final. That could be a possibility. It would eliminate the whole, like you said, we were talking about it later on the other side with teams that aren't Central Mass that are double the size of these Western Mass guys, and vice versa. It's just not fair when you get to this whole thing, and each region has their own way of deciding a champion and what alignment.
Well, that's another problem with the system is that no one does the same thing. Eastern Mass starts the playoffs a week earlier than Central Mass, and Western Mass shuffles the deck according to how they think they match up best with Central Mass. I like the idea of going just straight division statewide now, but I think you're going to have to add divisions. I think what they're going to say is you're going to say, okay, everyone has to be within whatever. At the bigger divisions, maybe within 100 boys, and then at the smaller divisions, within 50 or 75, whatever it is.
And, of course, this playoff format seems to be here to stay. Those who are not in the playoffs are losing money.
Yeah.
The schools are losing money. I talked to one athletic director last week, may have lost $700, $800 in a game where they were playing a common opponent, a like opponent, and they weren't in the playoffs. Nobody's there.
Right. And no one is. No one's at these games. The non-playoff games, no one's there. I mean, we had bad weather Friday, but the week before, you and I were at the Thursday game. We're at Algonquin-Fitchburg, at Fitchburg. There's no one at the game. No. There's no one even on the Algonquin side. People don't care because they've been told these games don't matter. But, again, I don't fault anyone now because they had a chance, and all the athletic directors and all the schools and all the teams had a chance last year or the year before to put forth a whatever your new proposal was. And they had a chance. Central Mass had a chance to all get together and unite and call your Eastern Mass guys, but they didn't. They didn't do it. Everyone showed up. No one had a plan. No one had, why don't we go to this? No one even stood up and said, hey, why don't we go back to the old way of playing straight through Thanksgiving and then having a playoff on Tuesday and a playoff on Saturday, maybe going one extra week, or just eliminating that and just taking the top team in each division, play the Western Mass champ on Tuesday, Eastern Mass champ on Saturday. But no one suggested that. So you went back to the old way. So they had a chance. So I'm okay with the way it is now, only because they made their own bed in this one.
And I'll say this: we were at that Fitchburg-Algonquin game. The kids played hard.
Yeah, they did.
They played hard. They wanted to win that game. The kids still want to play and win the game, but there's nobody.
No, there's just not that buzz. Yeah, there's not that buzz around a game. Yeah. Even if you were 2-9, even if you had two teams that had 2 wins, but you're playing for something because you haven't been told, hey, the playoffs are going on at the next town over, and this game really doesn't mean anything.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, we still have a lot of football left to talk about on this show. We're talking Neshoba in Division 4, Nipmuc in 5, and more when we come back. Quick break here on the Frenzy Extra. Stay with us.
Take a lap with some water.
Coming up this week on the state semifinal edition of the Frenzy, St. John's is on a quest for the repeat as the Pioneers face Springfield Central. Valley Tech's tour de force continues as the Beavers face Western Mass champ Waucona. The Nipmuc Warriors are on the trail to Foxborough as they battle Longmeadow. And St. Bernard's continues their run to a title as the Bernardians face Hoosick Valley. The Frenzy on Charter TV 3.
All right, welcome back. Want to start, because we haven't gotten to this segment in the last 2 or 3 weeks. We just run out of time with our Frenzy 5. And there's not a lot of, it's pretty unanimous in the Frenzy 5. We all have St. John's as the number 1 team. Neshoba, we all have number 2. 3 and 4, we flip-flop. Jim and I have Wachusett at 3. Kevin has Shrewsbury, and vice versa at 4 for both. And then we all have Doherty at the 5 spot. And those are all teams that we think are the 5 best teams right now in Central Massachusetts. Now, number 2, we all have Neshoba. They are in Division 4. They score a big win over Tantascwa. Their defense was outstanding in this game. Cold weather game, a lot of wind at Commerce Bank Field, but the defense really came up to play, and their linebackers were unbelievable again at Neshoba. It seems like they always seem to reload those guys.
This is their time of year.
Yeah,
they've been here. They're every year they're in this position. If they're not playing at Gillette, they're playing for a spot in Gillette. So I think having that, it was typical, not taking anything away from Tantascwa, but you can tell it's the big game kind of mentality. Tantascwa they couldn't, nothing they did wrong. They couldn't beat Neshoba. Yeah. Neshoba came out loaded. They had great running game. Their defense stood tall, took everything they shot at them. It was a great win for them.
It was the defense. Yeah. It was the defense that won the game, because the defense forced turnovers that led to touchdowns, and then they forced a 3-and-out where Tantascwa had to punt in their own end zone against that wind, and the ball went out of bounds at the 10-yard line. Right. It was all because of the wind just shut everything down. But the defense, Alex Childs couldn't be blocked. Andy and I are watching the game. Alex Childs is awesome. I mean, he's a running back. He kicks for him. He was 4 for 4 on PATs. He's a defensive end, and whenever they tried to run option, he was right there forcing it, and their pursuit to the football is awesome, because Tantascwa is not one-dimensional. They'll run option, they'll run counters, they run, wing T, they'll go power I. Whatever they threw at them, or Neshoba rather, blew up the point of attack, and they had great pursuit to the football.
Yeah, and Tantascwa did throw a range of things at him.
Yeah.
A little jump pass out of the Wildcat with Sears. They had some things going and made some plays, did Tantascwa, in this game. But as Jamie Tucker said, our guys came up, stepped up, and kind of, answered that. But, you got the sense that you almost had to play a perfect game if you're going in to play Neshoba in this game in Central Massachusetts. And if 1 or 2 things go against you, Neshoba will exploit it. And they did. So they have Gloucester. That game is on Friday night. I believe it's at Woburn High, something like that. So
Gloucester's loaded. They're going to be.
Gloucester's big. The Fishermen are ready.
Fishermen over 400 yards of offense in their 3 postseason game. Each of their games, it's a tall task. But which is great how the defense stepped up against Tantascwa. Because they have another battle. You got to keep the heavyweight belt on them.
Yeah.
Well, these guys, with Neshoba, these guys have all been playing together, most of them, since 3rd or 4th grade. Playing youth football since 3rd or 4th grade. So there's a lot of familiarity there with the Neshoba kids in terms of knowing their roles, knowing their strengths and weaknesses. And then on offense, Sam Belinsky, you can't get a more seasoned quarterback, a 3-year starter. He got hurt last year in the game at Gillette, but took him to Gillette. Didn't get to play a lot in that game because he got hurt real early. But this is a guy who's seen it all and has been through it all, and he's a great leader. And he's a real accurate passer.
He's a big kid, too.
Oh, he's huge.
Can run the football, scored a touchdown with his legs as well in this one. So Neshoba is back, and, what did Child say to us? Something to the effect, hey, we have one more game. We might as well just win it. I mean, that's a pretty good attitude. You can bring that in to Gloucester. And so Neshoba plays Friday night. Then in Division 5, we've got Nipmuc. And Happy Days is gone. They were rolling with Happy Days last year, and they played West Springfield in this game, and Westside ultimately won the game. They get a tall task when they get Longmeadow, a team with almost twice as many boys in the school in Division 5. And Longmeadow, a team that used to play St. John's and play in that higher division in this game in years past, albeit under a different scenario, a playoff structure. So Nipmuc, special team, got it done again with a big win over Northbridge.
That was a great win for Northbridge. They knew it was one of those rematches that didn't go the same way as it did the regular season. I think Nipmuc's been playing really well. They had a great win over Oakmont, the week before. So I mean, they're just a power right now. I think they're doing. They have probably one of the best passer receiver combinations around. Nate Gould at the receiver, Judah Dishington at quarterback. They just make things happen, and they don't do too much flashiness. This is what we're going to do. Try to stop it, kind of thing. And I think that's what happened with Richie Broney, running back, good, solid, stout young man. He's gonna try to do the
I like he's like Keith
Stout.
Jackson.
Yeah.
He's a stout young man, that
That's right.
Richie Bruni. Oh, I took to his daddy earlier.
Exactly. So I mean, they got three. Longmeadow's going to be tough. I mean, like I said, I watched them. Back when they played, trying to beat Shrewsbury and Mario Johnson.
Right.
It's like one of those. They had the wagon for the last couple of years. Division 5. I don't know how that. I want to see the math. I want to see the math how they're in Division 5.
It's a little bit of this.
The shell
But
game.
Nipmuc's healthy for the first time all year.
Yes.
Coach Hill talked about it at the game. They got all of their linemen back. They were healthy for the first time, so they thought they could run the ball, and they were right. You get an all-league lineman. He was an all-CMAS All-Star last year. He's been out all year. You put that piece in front of Richie Brony and let him go. 30 carries, 172 yards for Brony. When you look at Gould, too, he's just a great playmaker. He's an awesome high school football player because he's a kid that plays all three faces. He kicks for them,
right,
and he's a defensive end, outside linebacker, and a wide receiver for him. So he's making the plays offensively, but he had a couple big sacks in this game, and he was pressuring the quarterback for Northbridge Brewer all game long.
And what he did was he went up and got a ball early in that game, took it away from a defender, and then finished the play, took off, and gave Nipmuc the momentum on Northbridge, that early lead, get that confidence flowing. They'll have to do it again against a Longmeadow team that just beat East Longmeadow, a team that they'll have to then play again on Thanksgiving. That's their Thanksgiving rivalry out west. Longmeadow hasn't been to a D2. Well, they lost in the D2 state finals in 2014. That was the only time they were in, and they were D2 at the time. Again, times are different.
Yeah, different format.
Worlds apart.
Interesting, though, for Nipmuc. So they've won it now 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
They've won the Central Mass Super Bowl 3 years in a row. You talked about the quarterback, Dishington, Brony, and Gould. All three are juniors. All three come back next year. So, Coach Hill has got a program going there at Nipmuc. And you got to give him a lot of credit because he is really built that entire thing up, that it's not one and done, one class of superstars. They continue just reload, and that's impressive.
This was a big game in Central Mass. This is the game they pointed to, the one they wanted. Now you're kind of playing a little bit with house money, but you go up against a Longmeadow team that's bigger than you are size-wise. Is it hey, let's go out and play loose? This is a better situation for Nipmuc. No pressure. Let's go out and try to win this thing, and everyone thinks we're the underdog. How do they play this?
Yeah, exactly. You know what? It's like we said about Neshoba. We're here, we're playing, we might as well win it.
Sure.
It's one of those things. It doesn't matter how you got there. You're there. Every other team wants to be there. They have a great team. Why not? Let's go. What do you have to lose against? You can only, no matter how. I always with the alignment thing or the enrollment stuff, you have to play 11 guys.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you have 500 kids to choose from or 800 kids to choose from. Nipmuc's gonna find 11 talented kids in the football field and make Longmeadow try to stop them.
And a lot of that too comes on the coaches. Like if you hear a coach crying about that, then it filters down to the players. Coach Hill's not going to talk about it. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what Longmeadow has. If they got 3,000 kids, fine, let's line up and play. Now, if your coach has that attitude, that filters down through the team too. Hey, they put their pants on the same way we do, one leg at a time. Let's go out, smash them in the mouth from the first play of the game, show them who we are, where we're from, and let them know at the end of the game who they played. Hit them so hard that at the end of the game, they will remember for the rest of their lives playing Nipmuc.
Outstanding. Listen, they will remember. They remember that back at Acton. The Maynard kids remembered how you felt when they were taking you to the turf. 14-6 is the record, Central Mass winning record over Western Mass in these types of games since 2013. I think Western Mass know that? Or is that just a stat we concoct?
I think they probably know, because didn't they clean sweep them last year?
Last year was 2-2.
Okay.
Central Mass had a couple of buys.
What was the 4-0 year?
4-0 was 2013, the first year with Central Mass. So Central Mass has an edge in this game. Western Mass has never won a state championship. Central Mass has a couple, including a St. John's win last year. All right, we are back with Valley Tech. We have not forgot you.
No way.
We have not forgotten.
Just let it breathe a little bit.
We're saving you for the last segment. We're talking Littleton, we're talking St. Bees, and Valley Tech as our preview to the state championship, state semifinals continues here on the Extra.
Coming up this week on the state semifinal edition of the Frenzy, St. John's is on a quest for the repeat as the Pioneers face Springfield Central. Valley Tech's tour de force continues as the Beavers face Western Mass champ Waucona. The Nipmuc Warriors are on the trail to Foxborough as they battle Longmeadow. And St. Bernard's continues their run to a title as the Bernardians face Hoosick Valley. The Frenzy on Charter TV 3. Local news from Central Massachusetts for Central Massachusetts.
A 2-alarm fire caused a substantial amount of damage. A carbon monoxide leak in Leicester sent 3 people to the hospital. An Auburn man faces a judge Wednesday in an animal cruelty case. A tractor-trailer fire on the Pike early Tuesday morning.
Reporters in the field. And an in-depth local forecast. Worcester News tonight on Charter TV 3.
All right, welcome back. We're breaking down the state semifinals here, and Littleton's back in it. Littleton's the little school that could, just 222 in their enrollment for boys in their Division 6 enrollment. They have Stoneham this week, but Littleton gets a win over BMR, a tough, gritty team last week at Doyle Field, and they just always seem, they're like Neshoba. They always seem to be here. Right?
Get the sledgehammer ready to go
Yeah.
for the playoffs. And they just they know how to take the big games. They know how to play. They're just a real tough team. Nothing against BMR. They just had, it's a big mountain from the climb. Who do you stop on? It doesn't matter the weather, how windy it is. Littleton's going to find a way to put up the points. Mitch Bowden was one of the 1,000-yard rusher. He's just a bull to bring down. Will Scott is also a guy in the backfield. If you stop Bowden in a couple plays, Scott will run up the middle. Got a couple of yards. He has 500 yards rushing on the year. The Austin Lynn Evan Lyons at receiver. So you need to throw a pass. They can come up with it. Braden Lynn's doing a great job at quarterback. Defense is always great. No matter how many kids they graduate, their defense is top notch. So they get Stoneham this weekend. So let's see how it goes.
Mike Lynn's done a great job.
Yeah,
as
he really
always
has.
over
no,
there.
He has,
at
and they
Littleton.
wear you down. Littleton just wears you down. Whether it's Bowden and Lynn and Scott on offense or the defense, they just wear you. They're going to continue to pound you straight ahead, and it's like a prize fighter going to the body. The first couple rounds, it doesn't pay off. The later rounds, all of a sudden, that guy starts to get tired, and that's what Littleton does. They hammer you to the body, and eventually the tree falls, and that's what they did to BMR. I mean, BMR's up against a team that's really physically big like Littleton is, but they just pounded them, and just wore them down. And Lynn on defense too.
Right.
Austin Lynn on defense had a pick 6 in the game. They're a ball hawking team on defense, and they're aggressive on defense. They're aggressive. They put a lot of pressure on you, and then on offense, it's here we go. We're coming straight at you. Try and stop us. And then if you put 9-10 guys in the box to load up against the run and stop these huge backs, then they'll just drop it right over the top of you. So it's kind of a pick your poison.
So they essentially have to go through Eastern Mass to get anywhere, right? Stoneham's the team they're playing, and then Old Rochester Regional is there already. So they have the bye apparently in their
the
side
rotation.
of things. Central Mass had byes in D4 and D6 last year. So Littleton is there, and they're back in it. And then in Division 7, I want to thank the Blackstone Valley Tech guys for watching this program last week. It was very much appreciated. They were all over me on the sidelines as they rolled up on Leicester a little bit, and they're waving at me and stuff. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. BVT is back in it again.
Yep. Yeah.
They looked maybe more impressive than they did even last year in that win over Leicester. And, Arch has this group rolling again. So they have Wacona again, and BVT, the secret to their success, Jim. They just have a blue-collar team that goes out and bangs and hits people.
Bunch of 8-track guys. They love to, do some damage. They're going to fix your car and everything. They're every year we talk about them because I think Arch and his staff have done a great job building this program up. No matter how many kids they graduate, not a problem. I mean, whoever had a quarterback doesn't matter. We'll just plug in the junior guy coming back. They'll get the job done. They play the Colonial League schedule. They roll on those teams. They play, so everybody's like, well, you're just playing a Colonial team, no problem. Next thing they got 50 hung up on you.
Right.
So I mean, I think that's JJ and Scott Mackey's a great quarterback. JD and Taya, had a game last week. He did everything for him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what especially in a game against Leicester. It's a rematch. What did they learn? Leicester's playing. We talked about Leicester last week, how good they were playing after that Millbury overtime game. I mean, they just, I think Valley Tech answered a lot of questions. They don't care.
No.
They're just going to come in and that's great. You guys had a great season. And that's seems to do against us.
We're going to roll you.
Yeah, we're gonna. It's you're cute. You look at you. You have a little, winning streak coming to the game. That's fine. Here's 50 points. Deal with it.
But that comes from Archie. That comes from the quarterback and the coach on down, and I love it. I love Archie's attitude because he'll call teams out. and say, this is who we're playing the next 3 weeks, and we're going to hang 50 on you, we're going to whale you, and try and stop us. And I love that he's not afraid. And that's the way he was as a player, by the way. When he was at Northbridge as a player and with Danny Brown, Archie was the kind of guy that wanted to start a street fight. Right from the first play of the game, he wanted to punch someone and let's go. Let's have a fight for 2 hours, and had the swagger of, we're Northbridge, we're going to come in here, we're going to walk all over you. And he brings that same swagger and that same intensity and that same kind of junkyard dog mentality of, I want to get in a fight, to BVT. And these guys have followed him lockstep for this. And, I mean, Antaya had his nose glued shut on Friday.
Right.
The doctor told him, don't play in the game. I don't want you putting on a helmet and playing because you got this glue thing, it's going to open wide up. He said, no way I'm not playing in the game. He plays and has a huge game on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, first of all, Arch, by the way, 2001, he's one of the few guys talking to me on the sideline as Northbridge was going to win a Super Bowl out at Springfield College. And he's chirping at me, telling me what's going on. So
You picked Lester back then, didn't you?
no, I did not pick Lester. I never pick against Coach. Anyway, but this is a group, offense, defense, they challenge each other in practice. It's one of the things that Archie was talking about afterwards. They just challenge each other, they talk a little smack to each other, and they back it up, and they do it constructively. This is a fun team. This is a fun team, and they still got some guys, some youth that are playing there, but they have a good group of seniors that are back, and it's a fun team to watch right now. They looked as good as any team I saw.
Only a junior too.
Yeah,
he's coming back.
I mean, he can flat out run. One thing I did notice from the game is defensively last year and maybe this year, teams might be able to throw a little bit against BVT. Well, Anthony Landini, the defensive coordinator, they locked that thing down against Leicester.
He's an Uxbridge guy.
A good throwing team. Yeah, they brought some Uxbridge guys on board.
There's a couple Uxbridge guys that snuck onto that Northbridge staff.
And Landini and his defense did a fantastic job against a good quarterback receiver, a couple receiver combination that Leicester had. They're going to be tough. Wacona tried to throw on them a little bit last year as they were trying to come back in that game. And this defense, I think, is playing at a high level.
Yeah, Tad's got 5 picks. I mean, I think Alice Tashian leads the team in tackles. I mean, they got a wagon there. Nobody talks about because their offense puts up so many points. But look out Wacona. They're gonna get muckled.
I like it.
Oh, baby.
Willie's on board. Willie's on board.
Yeah.
The train keeps rolling at BVT. And listen, they have physical practices, and that's where it all starts. At the beginning of the season, they're going to hit each other in practice. They're going to battle in practice. And so when you get to the games, it's like, hey, listen, we've been fighting each other for 5 days. We're taking it out on someone.
Right.
Yeah. And I am not picking against Blackstone Valley Tech. I don't care if you
No
want
way.
to
Archie hates when I pick
or
him.
not.
I know
Valley Tech.
They do want you to pick
Love
against
to
them.
see you back at Gillette again. And they were thinking Wacona would be the team at the beginning of the year, and here they are. Here's their opportunity. They had to execute, and they did. And they're thinking Mashpee might be the team, and they probably might be the team.
Wacona does a little bit of everything too.
The thing that stinks here is Nipmuc and BVT probably are going to get to the Super Bowl and get to Gillette. So with that, when they play each other on Thanksgiving, neither one of the coaches is going to play the starters because they're going to be playing at Gillette the next week. So I, for one, say, let's let those two teams play a week after Gillette.
Yeah, that'd be a
Both
great
schools
game. They
hold
would.
basketball
They
for
would.
1 week. Let those two teams meet full strength a week after the Super Bowl.
Find an
at
open
Gillette.
field in Mendon and see what
Oh,
they
it would be awesome.
That would be a great game. By the way, it's St. Mary's and Cohasset would be the two teams. One of the two teams that they would play. All right, real quick, St. Bernard's, they're in Division 8. They did their job on this past weekend, and St. Bernard's has been impressive all year with the range of different athletes that they can go to on offense, especially, and the defense doing the job.
That's the key of St. Bernard's. You don't know, no matter as a coach, you look at it, well, who do you stop? Well, St. Bernard's has like 5 guys right in the backfield alone that can do the job. I mean, if you stop like a Xavier Marty, Ja'Kai Alexander will take the ball for you. So I think that's really big. Lunenburg had a great season. It stinks to have that. Everybody looks at the Catholic Conference and St. Bernard's and their enrollment. They were able to handle that. I mean, it was 44-7. That was a pretty convincing win of St. Bernard's. They've been doing it all year. They play Hoosick Valley on Saturday, and that's going to be a tough challenge for Hoosick because I think St. Bernard's is loaded this year.
Last year was the year of mercy in the Catholic Church, so
That has ended.
They can,
There was just 1 year, the Pope said.
Hoosick Valley put up 76 points in a beatdown of Neshoba Tech last year, and they were going hard into the fourth quarter. St. Bernard's
And no one in Central Mass, by the way, was crying for Neshoba Tech not beating that, but we can get into that later. But I'll say this.
We've got less than a minute, so
when we talk about all these teams going into the playoffs, we're talking about one thing. No matter what division we've talked about their defenses and how big their defenses played in their playoff, in the Central Mass Super Bowl win. That's with St. Bernard's the same thing. It starts on defense, and any team that plays real good defense is going to have a chance no matter who they play.
The Neshoba Tech conversation will be Frenzy Extra after dark.
Yes.
right.
Only available
Facebook
on
Live.
Check our
Kevin
blog.
Shea's YouTube page.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thanks very much. That's a wrap for the Frenzy Extra for this season. Jim, Kevin, thanks very much. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for having
We'll
us.
see you at the semis.